The Chiefs are once again Super Bowl champions. The 49ers fell in heartbreaking fashion. Kyle Shanahan racked up his third Super Bowl loss. Patrick Mahomes got his third Super Bowl win. And America is either rejoicing or in crippling depression that they have had to watch the Taylor Swift dynasty rise to the top. And there are a lot of things which went on in this game. The biggest to me, though, occurred in the second quarter off the field. I truly believe the Kansas City Chiefs would have lost that game if Dre Greenlaw had stayed on the field. It's not to take anything away from Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, any of those guys. They played great in the second half after Greenlaw went down. But with Greenlaw on the field, the 49ers had been shutting out the Chiefs despite several costly mistakes from their offense. Greenlaw was flying around, had 3 tackles in the first quarter, incredibly impactful player, making plays in coverage, doing everything he could to win the 49ers a Super Bowl. After he went out, they replaced him with a backup linebacker who had barely seen the field all year. That linebacker was targeted 9 times, gave up 9 catches, had a touchdown caught on him, had a passer rating of over under 30 on him, and really was the reason that 49ers defense fell apart. He was terrible in coverage, not particularly strong tackler, and I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to bring hate onto him. I'm just going to casually hate on him. And losing the heart and soul, the guy who had the most juice to a off-the-field injury is just heartbreaking. That is why the 49ers defense started to fall apart. That is why their offense may have lost a little bit of the pep from their step. Chiefs did what they needed to do. It's unfortunate that happened, not taking anything away from them, but the Greenlaw injury is what decided the Super Bowl.
Blaming the whole Super Bowl on the Dre Greenlaw injury, that is simply...
Blame and decide are 2 different things.
It's a lazy take any way you slice it because the defense is not the primary reason they lost the game. In the biggest moments, the offense failed or the special teams failed. I mean, right out of halftime, Dre Greenlaw's already injured. The Chiefs go ahead, throw in an interception, give the ball back to the 49ers on the Chiefs side of the field. If the 49ers go down and score, they have, the 2 touchdown lead at that point in the game. They don't do that. They don't get any yards, and they're forced to punt the ball. On their first drive of the game, they're driving the ball down the field, have the ball in the Chiefs' territory. Christian McCaffrey fumbles. Then the Chiefs haven't done anything really offensively the entire game except for a couple of field goals. And then what happens? Your special teams fumbles the punt. Very next play, the offense finally is able to score a touchdown for the Chiefs, and it gives them momentum for the rest of the game. That was the turning point. There wasn't really anything significant that happened for the Chiefs being able to move the ball until that turnover happened on the punt. Now, of course, Dre Greenlaw is a major piece to that defense, and he's a very good player, but to place any large piece of the blame on that injury, I think is a little disingenuous to the momentum swings and the different mistakes Kyle Shanahan made and that offense
so
made.
Talk about momentum swings. Okay, keep going.
And the offense not executing in key moments.
You can't say, oh, well, the Dre Greenlaw thing did happen, then bring up momentum swings when he was their most fired up depender who had that team going. If you want to talk about momentum, having a guy tear his Achilles stepping on a grenade, getting on the field, having the sniper be in the building, having the Patrick Mahomes devil magic strike down a brave young soul in Dre Greenlaw. That's momentum swings. I don't want to make it sound like the 49ers played particularly great after the Greenlaw injury. They had some offensive shortcomings. Purdy did not move the ball particularly well through the air. The running game getting criticized, I don't quite understand. They were trying to establish the run, but the Chiefs defense was, I think the term is gap blitzing, first and second down, just shooting gaps as hard as they could, not to try and put pressure on the quarterback, but to try and get into Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Juszczyk's faces and stop them from carrying the ball. They were selling out to stop the run. They succeeded. Christian McCaffrey had an inefficient night on the ground. I don't get why people are criticizing Shanahan about that. If you want to criticize Purdy, fine. If you want to criticize CMC for fumbling the ball, fine. But why are we talking about the 49ers rushing attack like it was the issue?
That's something I don't really get because I don't even think you can really even heap a ton of blame, or I should really say hate, on Kyle Shanahan or Brock Purdy, because I think Brock Purdy played solid. I mean, he played as good as he can. Of course, maybe do you want to say like on that third down conversion where they maybe can run the clock out at the end of the game, do you wish he would have maybe seen the blitz coming? Yes, but he had a few other plays that game where like when the Chiefs sent pressure and he's able to read that quickly and dump it off to McCaffrey for a big gain. Or he did that a couple times where at the last second he got the ball off and the 49ers got yards. So I think Brock Purdy played at a high level, and I don't think you can really point to that horrific of a game from Kyle Shanahan. It just comes down to the fact that the Chiefs defense is elite. As good as the 49ers defense is, the Chiefs defense was that good. I mean, Chris Jones had a phenomenal game, was getting after Brock Purdy the entire game, and then their rotational pass rushers, or the rest of the front seven that they have, was playing at a high level, and they stopped the run. So it comes down to mistakes made, which happen in every NFL game, and it comes down to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in the biggest moment. They showed up in a bigger way than Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy did.
I mean, Brock Purdy also missed a few deep throws, which really could have put the game out of reach. We're not talking about, oh, he played great. He played all right. There were moments he could have done better. But you're not talking about the defense. The cornerbacks were getting in Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk's face, bumping them off their routes. Kind of like how we saw them do to the Dolphins in the first round of the playoffs. Disrupt the timing, disrupt the system a little bit. That's why the passing success was not there in the fullest extent. That's why we weren't getting as many wide open 49ers. The pressure paired with the fact the Chiefs were delaying their routes is why they were really able to bottle up Purdy, have him somewhat of an efficient night through the air. What I will say is the people are saying, oh, Brock Purdy's a system quarterback. Brock Purdy will never win a Super Bowl. He's 23, 24, playing in his first Super Bowl, second NFC Championship game. Did not play horribly. He was not the reason they lost per se. You can point to other things. Not many people are pointing to Purdy. I am fairly confident that if he stays with the 49ers and they don't lose all their talent to free agency or retirement in the next 3 years, he's going to wind up getting a ring.
Well, he has to improve at some point and continue to get better, which you hope is the case for a player that is as young as he is and as early in his career. But when it comes from a roster standpoint, the roster's never going to get better for the 49ers unless they just hit home run after home run in the draft, because you have Deebo already getting paid a lot of money. Assuming they want to keep Brandon Ayuk, I know his closest friend or brother, whoever that was, is tweeting out this is why they're getting out of San Francisco. That's besides the point. But if you want to pay him, you're going to have to pay him. Chase Young, if you want to, a lot of people probably
Chase Young could have won Super Bowl MVP the way he was playing. He had a great game.
He was playing good, and I said both of us said he was good before the game. And if you want to pay him, he needs to get paid. I'm assuming he'd probably be in the $15 to $20 million range. You have Brock Purdy making less than $1 million heading into the last year of his contract. So you have all these players who haven't really gotten paid yet, all very good players deserving of getting paid. And I'm assuming with the way, if Daniel Jones gets $40 million, Brock Purdy eventually is going to get $40 million.
He may get $40 million. He deserves way more than $40 million if Daniel Jones is getting 40. But he's definitely smart enough to say, hold on, wait a second. I know what's around me. I don't have some dumb blank agent whispering in my ear saying I need $45 million. Granted, that's probably about how much it costs to have an apartment in San Francisco, but still, he will probably take a much more team-friendly approach to the contract negotiations than Daniel Jones. If you remember this time last year, Daniel Jones's crowd was 100% going at the full, we need as much money as possible. I just don't see Purdy doing that. Kid from the farm country realizes he's already in the best situation possible. What reason does he have to push for an extra $10 million if it's going to make his life harder? I also want to briefly touch on the holding no calls. Those were there were two plays in particular I'm going to mention. One where Fred Warner got tackled by the running back, and another where Nick Bosa got tackled by the left tackle. Both of which could have conceivably either put the Chiefs in position to have a 3rd and long off a penalty or killed the drive with a sack. It may not be rigged, but those were terrible calls and cost the 49ers. If you want to talk about the intentional grounding call, I went back, I saw your TikTok, I watched the film. The wide receiver was not within 5 yards of that ball when it went out.
He was in the area.
It was not within 5 yards. It was behind the line of scrimmage. That is the right call. And it was also not as impactful point in a game.
We've seen receivers in the past be much further away from a ball and have intentional grounding not called. So I hate...
Was that ball behind the line of scrimmage?
It was, but it doesn't matter if there's a receiver in the area. I hate the whole blame the game on the ref narratives, unless it's really just one thing you can point to, like in the Saints-Rams game a couple years ago. Unless it's like that, I hate those narratives that are propagated, because we've already just spoke about all the things the 49ers could have done better, where they did not execute, where they did not take advantage of the Chiefs making major mistakes, and they made major mistakes themselves. And they had a chance to close out the game on 3rd and 6, and they did not make a play. They gave the ball to Patrick Mahomes with 1:53 and 2 timeouts left on the clock. That's a mistake in and of itself. But when it comes to the refs, you point to the 2 holding calls, and there's other points in the game where Chris Jones is being held and it wasn't called. There was only 2 offensive holding calls called in the game, albeit it was on, I believe, Trent Williams both times, which is kind of funny that he was the one who got holding called on him, but it only happened twice in the game in general. And to say that there wasn't unfortunate calls that went in favor of the 49ers during the game, where you could see Chiefs fans, yeah, it was a penalty, but like you may have not seen it called in other instances, that happened as well. I just think it's so lazy when people blame it on the refs. I'm not saying those weren't holding calls, but I feel like it was the general way the refs were calling the game.
You can say that as much as you want. You can take the pro NFL stance as what you want. You're entitled to that. At the end of the day, I don't like seeing clear and egregious holds not called late in the game when it can impact stuff. 49ers could have played better. Chiefs could have played worse, but the refs did play a little bit of a factor in the game. Finally, we have done almost no praise of the Chiefs offense. We've just talked about why the 49ers lost. We don't need to rehash this and talk for about 10 minutes. Everyone knows who Patrick Mahomes is, who Andy Reid is.
Can I say a narrative that I hate?
No, you cannot talk about, it's not rigged. It's not.
No, it's not the narrative that I'm talking about.
Is that not the narrative? What's
No. The narrative, and you call me a Chiefs homer all the time, and I get it.
I call you an NFL homer.
I get it. I like Patrick Mahomes. I'm a fan of what the Chiefs have done over the past 4 years. There's something, I need to root for being a Giants fan and all.
Oh, shut up. Poor little
with that
me,
being
I'm a
said,
Giants fan.
the narrative that has been propagated...
I'm so small.
The narrative that has been propagated by Nick Wright and other Chiefs homers that this was the year to beat the Chiefs, and people make it out to seem that this was a bad Chiefs team and the NFL is really unlucky because they're going to be so much better next season. It's just exaggeration at its finest, because you take a look at their roster and they've really been downplayed all year. It's the best Chiefs defense we've ever seen. I mean, they have the best defensive tackle in the NFL. Well, unless you're still an Aaron Donald fan, but Chris Jones.
Tristan, he had the Rams defense looking like a functional unit when it was him and the Grimsley High School JV team out there beside him.
Best, second best, who cares? It's him and Aaron Donald. Those are the only names. And then you have a bunch of names after him when it comes to
You're not going to
defensive
stick Dexter
tackle.
Lawrence in there?
Dexter Lawrence is a nose tackle. There's a major difference. There are 3 techniques they can move out. You think Dexter Lawrence is moving outside on Trent Williams and getting a pass rush?
He might. You never know.
It's not happening. He's not moving out.
You've seen him do the sexy Dexy, man. He's got mobility.
But they have him surrounded by a bunch of other pass rush talent between George Karlaftis and other young rotational pieces. And you have 2 very good young corners in Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed. You have 2 very good inside linebackers. You have a very solid offensive line. Granted, Joe Thuney was out for the game. And then you have Rashee Rice, who had the second most rookie receiving yards out of any wide receiver or tight end this year, only behind Puka Nacua, who had 1,400. And he also played in less games than Jordan Addison, who finished 3rd. So Rashee Rice was very good this season, rookie year. Certainly came on towards the end of the year as a more important piece of that offense. And then you have Travis Kelce, who, you can say, oh, maybe Sam Laporta had a better year. TJ Hawkinson was having a better year before he got injured. But Travis Kelce still had I think he had 980 receiving yards.
I think he finished within 12 yards of getting 1,000 for the 18th straight year, whatever it is.
And then come playoff time, he looked healthier than ever. And he was 70 yards, 100 yards, 9 catches, 90 yards in the Super Bowl.
All 12 of those Pfizer vaccine boosters kicked in at once, and he just washed it down with the Bud Light, and suddenly, boom, the body was reset to factory settings.
And you have Patrick Mahomes and Isaiah Pacheco, who is playing at a very high level. So I never understood the criticism of the Chiefs roster. I get that the receivers dropped more passes than any other receiver group during the regular season, but the talent was always there. MVS, talented player, just makes more mistakes sometimes than other players do. And Rashee Rice came on towards the end of the season.
Yeah, it's Kadarius Toney went off towards the end of the season. Shout out to him. It's at the end of the day the same stuff. People like to discredit Tom Brady for playing with a bunch of talent. This Chiefs team Patrick Mahomes is on this year has about as much talent as any Patriots team besides, of course, the Randy Moss Patriots team did. It's a great team. I kind of agree with you on that. The only reason people are downplaying it is because it was more visible because of lackluster wide receivers earlier in the year. But then again, Rashee Rice, next CeeDee Lamb, kind of mitigated that issue as the season went on.
I mean, in my opinion, Rashee Rice was better than any receiver they had last year, even Juju, because he was also on the field more consistently. And towards the end of the year, he gave them explosive plays that I don't think they quite had last year, or they needed explosive play here or there from maybe Kadarius Toney, maybe Sky Moore would get a one play there. He didn't even play in the Super Bowl this year. I don't know. I just find that narrative overblown and discrediting to give more hope for the future. Why could you possibly need more hope when you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid?
Sad, strange little people who want to feel like the victims. Anyway, those were our thoughts on the Super Bowl. We are going to start banging out off-season content at a much higher clip. We are dedicated to the craft. TikTok has fallen off, but YouTube is thriving. We will see you folks next week. Use code Thicc with 2 C's on Underdog, and we will catch you later.